Welcome to A2Council Update, a recap of the Ann Arbor City Council meeting on November 6, 2023. This meeting included comments and discussion about eliminating incentives to build affordable housing downtown, rezoning the former Sears at Briarwood Mall for redevelopment, adding setback requirements to the Transit Corridor Zoning District, and adopting a new policy to remove traffic lanes on all multi-lane roads by 2030 without considering traffic data. This is the voting chart for the council meeting on November 6, 2023. There was one non-unanimous vote on an amendment to the resolution regarding multi-lane roads. All agenda items were approved unanimously. You can find this voting chart and more information about this meeting at a2council.com. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more content like this. After introductory remarks, public comments, and staff explanations, Council discussed agenda items for about 40 minutes. 18 people signed up in advance to offer public comments. 10 of them spoke to topics on the agenda. The consent agenda included 20 items and expenditures of over $3 million. Nothing was pulled for discussion, and the consent agenda was approved unanimously. Council considered an amendment to zoning for the Lockwood development on Ellsworth. In 2021, City Council approved a planned unit development, or PUD zoning, for Lockwood that included a 144-foot setback to the east, adjacent to residents on Shadowwood. The PUD zoning also included a 68-foot setback to the south, facing Ellsworth. As built, the Lockwood development is slightly too far to the east and too far to the south, encroaching 4 feet into both required setbacks. The developer has now requested an amendment to the zoning in order to reconcile this mistake. Council discussed it for approximately 1 minute.
Because the foundation is laid and the building is under construction, it makes more sense to make slight reductions to the site plan to the east and south side setbacks than it does to start over repouring the foundation. No new construction is proposed. There are no other changes to the site plan or the zoning regulations. But this does, if nothing else, illustrate a disadvantage of PUD zoning, because something like this should not be coming to council. It should be a planning manager approval.
No new construction is proposed because the whole of the building has already been constructed. A leasing office is open, and signs out front promote an opening date of late 2023. Council unanimously approved the amended PUD zoning. Council then considered a rezoning of 8.3 acres at Briarwood Mall to allow demolition of the empty Sears department store and a redevelopment that includes surrounding parking lot. Earlier in the evening, a commenter spoke to the issue.
At the October 3rd Planning Commission meeting, developer John Phipps of the Simon Property Group revealed that, to his shock, DTE could not guarantee enough capacity to serve a 100% electric building. So Simon might have to go with gas heating after all. DTE's gas, of course. We're approving project after project where developers refuse to go all electric, knowingly helping to wreck our city's climate goals. And here, this one wants to do the right thing, and it can't because of no capacity.
Council discussed the rezoning for 1 minute.
I have asked planning staff, and they have informed me that they have asked the developer to confirm whether or not the building will be electrified so that this provision can be included in the development agreement that will accompany the site plan at City Council in December. We do not yet know whether they can confirm that.
The rezoning was approved unanimously. Council then considered an amendment to the Uniform Development Code that will remove developer premiums that incentivize the inclusion of affordable housing units in new developments downtown. Earlier in the evening, a public commenter spoke to the issue.
The affordable housing premiums have been in place since 2019, and they have not increased affordable housing by a single unit. So in that time, the premiums have placed an artificial limit on the construction of housing. We cannot afford any additional delay in removing these counterproductive limits.
These premiums were discussed and approved in 2019, just a few months before COVID lockdowns. This is how the premiums were discussed in October and November of 2019.
So as we look back over the last 10 years, we've seen a very clear pattern of development. Almost every development is 90% residential. So we've learned now that that's essentially incentivizing something developers want to do anyways. It eliminates, it cuts, it rolls back an incentive of something that developers already want to build. And then it replaces that by greatly strengthening our expectations for how much affordable housing we demand for the amount of added density we provide through our premiums. We're taking away a lucrative premium and replacing it with a much more aggressive affordability premium.
This was brought to you today in no small part because a student group on UM's campus, the Roosevelt Institute, felt compelled to advocate on behalf of a policy that would find other ways to encourage and incentivize affordable housing.
The expansion of affordable housing opportunities within the downtown is obviously something that lots of people desire and care about, and I'm glad that we are going to be taking this opportunity.
Since March 2022, mayoral appointees on the Ordinance Revision Committee of the Planning Commission have been working to eliminate these premiums based on just 2 years of data during the height of COVID. This week, city staff and council spent about 5 minutes discussing the elimination of these premiums.
From 2019 on, factors such as COVID, increased construction costs, and the requirements to incorporate a portion of the affordable units into each development likely have all contributed to the current premium regulations not resulting in affordable homes.
The proposal is to eliminate floor area ratio premiums and floor area ratio restrictions in downtown, so that development in the city's downtown zoning districts, D1 and D2, will be regulated solely by height. This is in no way a retreat from our commitment to affordable housing. In fact, no affordable units have resulted from the 2019 premiums revision.
A staff memo clarifies that this change is likely to result in fewer affordable housing units and fewer payments in lieu, contributing to the city's affordable housing fund. In advance of the meeting, Councilmember Briggs shared that she had concerns about the removal of these premiums. She said nothing during council discussion. Council voted unanimously to remove premiums that incentivize the development of affordable housing units in downtown zoning districts. These amendments were approved at first reading. At a future meeting, this amendment will be the subject of a public hearing and voted on for final approval at second reading. Next, Council considered an amendment to the Transit Corridor, or TC-1 zoning district, that will increase front setback requirements. There are now 2 TC-1 zoning districts in the city, one at State and Eisenhower, and another at West Stadium and Pauline. The zoning districts for TC1 require buildings in these corridors to have a minimum of 2 stories. Buildings on a transit corridor can be set back no more than 15 feet from the front property line. Under the current guidelines, TC1 zoning allows the location of 2-story buildings right up to the property line on high-traffic corridors. Last month, mayoral appointees on the Planning Commission debated the expansion of setbacks to create more space for pedestrians. 5 commissioners supported a new minimum front setback of 18 feet and a new maximum front setback of 28 feet. The chair of the Planning Commission was recused due to his employment as chief real estate officer for Oxford Companies. This week, council discussed the amendment for approximately 5 minutes.
Where Planning Commission disagreed was whether this space ought to be created by reconfiguring existing arterials, that is to say, road diets, moving curbs, or by requiring private property owners to set back permanent structures. This amendment proposes to measure setbacks from the back of the curb.
In some cases, and this came out of the stadium corridor, where we have only 7 feet from the curb to the back of the sidewalk, that's not enough space for a transit shelter, a adequately sized sidewalk for increased density, for all the things that we need. But in other places in the city, like State Street, where we have these immense setbacks, what it's actually going to be meaning is that we're bringing buildings closer to the street face.
Council unanimously approved the ordinance amendment to expand front setbacks in the TC1 district. These amendments were approved at first reading. At a future meeting, they will be the subject of a public hearing and voted on for final approval at second reading. After brief statements of support, Council unanimously approved 2 items: a $246,000 service agreement for the Bryant Geothermal project and the relocation of a polling place for the 2024 presidential primaries. Finally, Council considered a resolution directing the city administrator to evaluate lane reductions on all multi-lane roads in Ann Arbor by 2030. He is to make this evaluation ahead of the 2025 budget process, which begins in 6 months. 9 roads are named in the resolution: Stadium Boulevard, East Packard, Eisenhower, South Main, Ann Arbor Saline Road, South State, Plymouth, Huron Parkway, and Fuller. Earlier in the evening, public commenters spoke to the issue.
Engineering our roadways to bring about safer driving is always a good idea and is preferable to enforcement tools such as citations.
I hope that these evaluations will increase board multi-lane road reconfiguration.
We need to expand the access to bicycling infrastructure for the entirety of the city.
If we could improve the cross-town
30
biking
seconds.
options, we'll see more connectivity, we'll see more equity, and it will impact things, especially like housing.
You got to make it as convenient or more convenient to ride a bike, or you got to make it as convenient or more convenient to take a bus or to walk.
The more people on bikes means people that need to take a car somewhere have less traffic to deal with. There's less traffic for buses to get stuck in. We have more room for making our public transit better.
Council discussed it for about 25 minutes.
We're explicitly asking as part of the next fiscal year budget that a plan is put forward for us to evaluate all these roadways, because we need to understand where road diets are advisable or where a road reconfiguration is advisable.
By friendly amendment, language was added to acknowledge the needs of the University of Michigan bus system. A second amendment prompted discussion.
I don't believe council should eliminate a data reporting requirement that was created to provide us with information to inform our decision-making. For that reason, I would move to strike the final resolved clause.
That resolved clause explicitly rescinds a requirement that council receive traffic study data and projections for safety improvements and traffic delays. Resolution sponsors pushed back.
Ostensibly, there would be reports that would be coming out, though, to actually have a lot of information there as well. So, and finally, this was actually not a resolved clause that Councilmember Ackman or I sort of came to on our own. This was something that staff had mentioned to us as something that was that seemed unnecessary.
This resolution came to council from mayoral appointees on the Transportation Commission. They discussed it in October.
Resolved, basically, this is the one that's about repealing council measures in the past that I think have been somewhat of an obstacle to road configurations. And that's repealing the clause from this resolution that was from 2018. That requires that in conjunction with any proposed lane reductions, city staff shall provide council with current traffic volume data, including peak hour volumes and volume to capacity ratios, as well as projections for safety improvements and traffic delays. So we don't need this, and it seems like it's been an obstacle. So I think it measures the wrong thing according to our values. We know that this level of service metrics, that's another name for it, it's an outdated measure. Staff is still going to be collecting the data. What we're doing is removing the need to present it to us before moving forward with a road diet.
I do think traffic volume can help to inform some of the decisions that create, the exact problem that I'm talking about right now in the neighborhoods on either side of Platte Road. Those neighborhoods are experiencing increased traffic volume on their streets after the reconfiguration that we made.
And I also think by having that traffic volume data for especially for cut-through traffic in neighborhoods, it can help to highlight some other infrastructure gaps that we have.
I think that the people who politicize this data would find a way to do it, and I think I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay having that data presented to council.
A majority of council voted against the amendment, and the resolution was ultimately approved unanimously, including the provision rejecting the need for council to receive traffic study data prior to a traffic reconfiguration. After voting on the agenda, City Council went into closed session for about 30 minutes to discuss a confidential legal memo. The meeting adjourned before 9:40 p.m. For more details about this meeting, visit A2Council.com.
Welcome to this week's A2Council Moment of Zen.
I think having some additional information would be helpful.
I'm okay having that data presented to council.
Staff is still going to be collecting the data. What we're doing is removing the need to present it to us before moving forward.
I don't believe council should eliminate a data reporting requirement that was created to provide us with information to inform our decision-making.
I don't feel like I have the knowledge, the engineering, the traffic data knowledge to make a decision on a road configuration.